Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this new episode in our Fleet Week Connected and Electric. Connected and electric are more than buzzwords. Both go hand in hand, and you need to embrace the new developments. Implementing connected tools and electrify your fleet will provide lots of benefits, but it's not always as easy as it is on paper. And that's why we with Fleet Europe are organizing this Fleet Week. And today, ladies and gentlemen, we have the pleasure to have a webinar supported by Geotab, probably one of the biggest and most well-known telematics and IoT companies that can support your fleet and your fleet management. And so we are really happy that we can organize this webinar together with Geotab. And what we are going to do in this learning webinar today is to discover how data, good data, can make the transition to electric vehicles much easier. So today we are going to have insights in how the transition to your EV fleet can become more seamless, and that together with our experts of Geotab. And you will see that a key ingredient in that process is about data. Let me introduce our expert speakers for today's webinar. I would like to welcome Ingo de Schryver. He is the Business Development Manager EU at Geotab. And Tamás Halbrucker, he is the Solutions Engineering for the Nordics and Central and Eastern Europe at Geotab. And they are going first to detail how they see the importance of data for your electrification journey. And after that, we will have a Q&A together with our two experts where you can ask your questions. You can already do that during the presentation of our two experts. The only thing that you need to do is to submit your questions via the chat function in this webinar tool. And at the end, we will then have a hopefully very interesting and exciting Q&A session. So ladies and gentlemen, without no further ado, I will now give the webinar floor to Ingo and Tamás.
Thank you very much, Stephen, for the introduction. I could not have said it better than you did. But briefly on myself, Ingo de Schryver, based in Belgium, Business Development Manager. Today, I'm wearing the EV and sustainability hat. I'm already into telematics and fleet management since 2007. Joined Geotab in 2019. EVs, sustainability, very important to Geotab, and we'll gladly go into detail today. Tamás?
Yeah, thank you very much, Ingo. My name is Tamás Halbrucker, and thanks a lot for the introduction, Stephen, as well. I do work at the Solution Engineering Department of Geotab. I'm working in telematics for 10 years around now, and joined Geotab 3 years ago, focusing on electric vehicles. And looking forward to show your EV solution today and answer your questions in the Q&A.
So if we move to the next slide, today we will discuss the transition and EV journey with Geotab. And again, it's all about data, rich EV vehicle data. And that is important. The benefits we would like to explain to you. Yesterday, we were already told that data is gold, and we can only endorse that statement. Of course, the data must make sense. Data must turn into information, and data must add value, but it's clear that Geotab has an explicit focus on data, from data gathering over data aggregation to data consumption. So if OEMs can deliver that data, we gladly ingest it, bundle it into our management platform, because fleets, they do require rich data, compatible, consistent data. And even there, our dongle can still add huge value. So it does require reverse engineering, particularly in case of EVs, but let that be the Geotab specialty. So today we will talk EV, and we see that fleets absolutely want to take away the guesswork out of their transition to electric. So they wonder, can the electric vehicle do the job? We hear of range anxiety. We hear of charge anxiety, well, to a lesser extent at commercial fleets. What's the TCO compared to conventional vehicles, or how does my environmental footprint look like with electric vehicles? So Geotab can really provide a vehicle, driver, or location data, and we really can support with going electric and with answering the previous questions. So when you have those first EVs in operation, particularly a fair size, more challenges appear. And we understand that the state of charge or charge status are important to know, also when not being connected to your charging station. Because how to ensure even a smarter charging. So the transition and EV journey with Geotab is in the end part of an end-to-end solution, and based on Geotab telematics combined with the MyGeotab open platform and marketplace solutions, fleets can now start planning their optimal charging infrastructure. For example, and they get a full picture when monitoring a charging process, and they can optimize their load management. So it's all about gaining visibility into each EV's energy needs. Let me maybe emphasize the power of open platform and marketplace, because an open platform system really allows customers unfiltered access to data generated by their vehicles. And the Geotab marketplace is adding third-party fleet solutions. So the fleet industry is evolving fast, and only with an open platform and marketplace will you have the flexibility to customize or scale as your fleet changes, like into electric. Now that's a longer introduction, but let us move to the agenda. So Tamás, thank you. Although maybe well known, I will briefly introduce the company. My colleague Tamás will present the EV specific solutions. I'll gladly also present two business cases of early adopters. And last but not least, I'll briefly touch upon EV partnerships and how important this is today. Now, moving into the company, we're jumping a bit from one to the other, but always nice to state that today Geotab is really a world's leading connected vehicle company, helping business leverage data to better manage and track their fleets. Now, what does that mean when we talk about when we talk management and manage? We can here refer to EV transition, EV performance, EV scaling. Let me try in some numbers. We are connecting today 2.4 million vehicles. We process 50 billion records daily, and we have more than 44,000 customers and 700 resources of the 1,600 that are in technical and development roles. So we are really realizing the ambition to become world's leading connected vehicle platform. We do understand that innovation is the key to success, and because of our open platform, we can also rely or build on more than 200 partner solutions. So these partner solutions or integrations have been gradually growing and should result in a full e-mobility ecosystem. So our goal is not only to make fleets better, but we really embrace sustainability. So we align with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals and have recently signed the Climate Pledge, committing to net zero by 2040. So Geotab will also be participating at the Sustainable Innovation Forum at COP26 in Glasgow from November 8 to 10 next month. So there we will absolutely be able to raise our voice on climate action. Now moving to the next slide. World leader in connected vehicles. So I reverse engineering to ensure the richest electric vehicle data analytics, building fleet management, IoT solutions. That's our core business. It all started in Canada, and today we have a European organization of approximately 150 people with offices in London, Madrid, Paris, Rome, Munich, Aachen, local specialists and with lots of expertise in automotive. So we are a very scalable solution and deal with small, medium-sized fleets, but also many Fortune 500 companies. So if you move to the next slide, Tamás, to have some visuals there. But how do we go to market? That's important here. Geotab has certified sales partners taking on the role of consultants. So these consultants are specialized into various segments of industries, one being then e-mobility and sustainability. So Geotab, we invest in R&D, software development, hardware engineering, engine analytics, and the partner continuously support and consult. So they add the local flavor and the local ecosystem, complemented by our global partnerships. So our partners, they understand the government guidelines, interventions, and from fuel economy, emission targets to city access restrictions or financial incentives. So Geotab certified sales partners could also offer various ownership models from short-term rental or even leasing. So they might be in car sharing. Well, they just understand it very well, the fleet attitude and what keeps, let's say, a fleet manager awake at night. So today they are identifying a changing fleet sentiment towards fleet electrification. And yeah, Geotab, we provide them with the relevant information. I just didn't want to use the word data again. Last but not least, on the company, and so why do customers want Geotab telematics? Well, in the end, fleets are continuously looking for solutions and for ways to increase productivity, for ways to optimize their assets, save on operational costs, for ways to ensure safety, meet sustainability goals, or ways to respect the law. At Geotab, we are organized such way that whatever fleets wish to improve, and that is part of our solution. So we completely understand and support the drive to greener fleets, but we realize that this is always part of a larger picture. Our end customer does not only want to transition to electric, he also wants to keep his drivers safe. He wants to increase customer satisfaction, well, actually customer satisfaction by reporting out on ETA or let's say even temperature in case of FIGO transport. So one-stop shop is important here, a modular fleet management system. Now, we don't segment by the industry, but we offer fleet management with a high degree of customization, as it is also written here, including EV transition, then, as said earlier, EV performance or EV scaling. So, and as also I mentioned on the slide, telematics must cover the needs today, but must also be scalable to cover the needs tomorrow. So we are well aware that not all fleets are currently fit to go from 0 to 100% electric. But yeah, the Geotab solution can handle any conventional low to zero emission passenger car, van, truck, and bus or off-road machine. So it's important to decide for the right configuration and also let our partners, of course, consult on that. A configuration solution with most return and a strong contributor to a lower TCO, particularly than in transport. But now my colleague will go a bit more in detail on the EV specific solutions. Tamás?
Yep. Thank you very much, Ingo, for setting the picture and showing the big picture, how these solutions fit into the Geotab portfolio. And yeah, as you mentioned, let's go into the details about what we have to offer here. So you see that the demand and interest on EV adoption is definitely there, but the fleet electrification is not a simple task. It's more like a journey. So 100% electric fleets are existing, but they are more like an exception. Most of the fleets are starting from 0% and then introducing EVs and gradually increasing their numbers in their fleet until they reach an optimum. And this optimum will likely not be 100% for most of them, because EVs are still not the best choice for everything. So they do have different strengths, different weaknesses, and just different properties than conventional ICE vehicles that we see. Of course, These strengths vastly outnumber the weaknesses that we have, but still a fleet electrification project needs to be carefully planned and executed to guarantee success on that one. And telematics and good data can support the fleet managers over the whole journey for going, operating, and scaling electric. Good data. We talk about data, we talk about good data. Good data is gold, as we hear many times, and that's true. But getting this data is actually quite an important aspect, and that's the key. Getting data out of electric vehicles is not that simple task. We do work together with many OEMs to get the data there as well, and we needed to develop reverse engineering skills and advanced automotive know-how to support as many electric vehicles as we do today. As you see here in this number, it's currently 188 different makes and models that Geotab supports, and able to get the standard EV dataset that we can provide you as well. And we are continuously working on improving this number and extending our support. So I think we announced reaching the 100 end of last year. Now we're getting close to 200 as well, and scaling up to keep this number growing as well. I will talk a little bit about later why it's not that simple to get the data out of EVs. But let's take a look at the journey and the questions that we have. So by going electric, this phase is basically lots of unknowns, as we all know. So which vehicles are available, which have enough range, how would the cost structure look like, how would the environmental impact look like if I would switch from ICs to electric vehicles? Will the EVs be able to do the job? Will they cost more than conventional vehicles? What infrastructure planning I would need to see? How would my drivers react to those vehicles? Do I get some pushback or not? These are the questions that needs to be answered in the first stage by going electric. And this is where our personalized fleet electrification plan, EVSA, as we call it, electric vehicle suitable assessment, can be helpful. Basically, you can take out the guesswork out of the fleet electrification by analyzing telematics data directly from your current fleet, from your IC fleet, taking a look at the daily driving distances, maximum driving, average driving, how the driving profile of the vehicle looks like exactly to the meter, basically. Also taking a look at the fuel consumption that you have right now. And by using this data, we can run lots of simulations to see what electric vehicle would be suitable replacement for a given vehicle there as well. This EVSA just recently got a large update. Now we do support a few hundred different makes and models in the system as well. So you can really select the vehicle that you consider purchasing and see how it will perform under your own conditions, taking account the local temperatures, for example, on the monthly level, on the country level that the vehicle will be operating on. So we can really let you know if this vehicle will be able to do the job or not. It will also show you how your cost structure will look like. Of course, the data in this sense is as good as the information and the input that you provide it is. So you can even use it as a simple tool, or partners can help you really extend upon that one and feed in as many details as you would like to, be your tax details, be your incentives, be that your purchasing prices, be that your different other cost aspects that come into place. So the TCO calculation can be as complex as preferred, and then really show you how the cost structure will look like if you go electric, if you go with battery electric vehicles, if you do with plug-in hybrids, how would that look like? We all know that usually the purchase price was traditionally higher for EVs, and then the running cost you can save on the maintenance, you can save on the energy cost. This cost structure is getting a bit more complex these days. On the incentives or the purchasing side, thanks to the incentives, they are not too high as they were a few years ago. But with the rising energy costs, for example, running costs can be different as they were. And these simulations can show you what you can expect there. We will also show you your environmental impact reduction there too, by seeing the difference with the fuel consumption. By switching from ICs to EVs, we can calculate how much CO2 you're going to spare, or your fleet's going to spare over the lifetime of those electric vehicles. We can also consider the infrastructure aspect there as well. So you will see how your vehicles are being used, where they are dwelling overnight or during the day. You can see how this will fit with an EV charging infrastructure that you might want to deploy and likely want to deploy in this case. And as soon as you reach the second phase, so that was going electric. As soon as you start deploying EVs in your fleet, this is where lots of variables comes into place. So, for example, do I need special driver training to switch to electric? do the drivers check the SOC of the vehicles before starting? Or how would the real life range would look like? Do I get an alert where there is something going on with one of the vehicles? Are the drivers regularly plugging in the plug-in hybrids that we support or supported to them? Or how does, for example, the range look like in different environmental conditions in real life? Also, after a while, if you collect all this data and you get enough EVs in your fleet, there is where lots of data comes into place. So, for example, how my EV cost look like on the long run? What's the battery health over the time? What's the residual value of my vehicles there as well? How is the charging working out in the day by day? And these questions are come from the different properties of electric vehicles. So it's really crucial to utilize them and their capabilities as much as possible. And this is where telematics and management by measurement is even more important for EVs. So due to the high efficiency they have and the limited range and the longer recharging process, integrating these vehicles to the telematics system will allow you to utilize them more efficiently. Let's see how this can be integrated into the system. So what you see here on the image, that's the real-time charging status and the real-time status of your vehicle. So you will always see the state of charge of the electric vehicles, the current one. You will see if that vehicle will be able to do the next job, which is planned for them. You will also see if a vehicle is charging or it's not charging. So this will allow some real-time dispatching work, some real-time oversight of the system all the time. And of course, you will see all your EVs, all your ICs in the same portal, in the same structure. Don't need to use two different systems to handle these vehicles uniquely. But of course, it's not always that someone is looking at the system in real time. This is where notifications come into place. You can set the rules according to your liking. We do have a fully customizable rules engine that you can use to set EV-related rules, just like you can set other like safety-related rules in the system. An example, for example, is to get a notification when the EV state of charge drops below a given level. We do work together with last mile delivery fleets who are working with EVs on the daily run, and as soon as the SOC drops below a given level, the fleet managers needs to be notified that there is a risk of the driver staying outside of the depot for without sufficient charge. And this is how you can prevent that one. Also, you can get a notification if a vehicle stops charging because it's fully charged right now. In our HQ in Canada, for example, we have a limited number of charging points there as well, and these rules are set up. So as soon as a vehicle is done charging, a group gets notified and that vehicle can be moved away and the next one could start the charging process. But this is just the tip of the iceberg. Everything is possible basically using the telematics data that we have in the system, and you can combine it with the standard telematics functionality like geofencing and driver safety, driver behavior. Again, the next point will be the fuel and EV energy report, and EVs are seamlessly integrated into the system. And this EV and fuel energy report will show you the consumption of both energy sources in the simple view. That means if you talk about fuel vehicles, you will see fuel consumption. By electric vehicles, you will see electric energy consumption. And by plug-in hybrids, we can show you both. So with plug-in hybrids, it's really important to have this number, because if plug-in hybrids are utilized efficiently, that means mostly electric most of the time, and only for long trips the fuel engine will get utilized, then the overall efficiency will be way better than it is. And this view will let you control this one and let you see how many of your plug-in hybrids are utilized as they should. Also, thanks to this high efficiency, efficiency is really important to really consider driver behavior when they are using these vehicles. So just some numbers that I usually mention here is that the whole energy content of Mercedes e-Sprinter is equal to 5 liters of diesel fuel. But this 5 liters or the energy content of 5 liters of diesel fuel, the e-Sprinter can do more than 100 kilometers on a single charge. That means efficiency is way higher as ICEs, but it's really important to utilize them as efficient as possible to keep this high score, basically. On the charging history side, this is another aspect that we need to consider when switching to electric. So earlier we mostly talked about driving behavior. Now a new word is coming to this concept, which is charging behavior, because by charging prices can be really vary depending on the location and time when the vehicle gets charged. Just imagine that if the vehicle is charged in the depot overnight, then you pay a few cents for kilowatt hour of electricity. If the vehicle is charged on one of the high power charging stations on the highway, like the Ionity chargers, if you don't have a subscription, then you easily pay 79 cents for the same amount of energy there as well. So with fuel prices, you have a few percent of difference depending on location. With energy prices, you can have 700%, for example, which is a huge difference. So it's really important to understand where your drivers, where your employees are charging their cars, how they are charging their cars, and overall the charging behavior that you have, and then you can incentivize the drivers to achieve good charging behavior there as well. And this EV charging report, you will see exactly where a charging process happened, how much energy entered the battery, what was the difference in the state of charge, and all the other details. And of course, you can also use the rules engine to generate notifications based on that EV charging report. The EV charging cost adds another layer to the EV charging report, basically by adding the information based or the price information based on the location. The system will also calculate for you the charging prices, the charging cost that you can expect to have on a different vehicle, on a different zone, on a different aspect there as well. This add-in is available in the Geotab marketplace. It's easy to install it to one of your databases and then get this information ready as well. That was on the electric or the operator electric side. And now we enter the scaling electric. As soon as the number of electric vehicles in your fleet reach a given level, it opens up lots of new opportunities about managing charging, keeping all of those vehicles ready to go in the morning as well. Where do you have the option to expand with new EVs on your locations? And managing all these vehicles are quite a complex task, and this is where also telematics come handy. One of them would be, one of the tools that we provide here would be the EV Charge Assurance Dashboard. This dashboard monitors and oversees all the charging processes that are currently ongoing there as well. And if there is any problem detected with the charging, it will let you know immediately by displaying a warning message. So you can keep this up on your mobile phone. You can keep it shown in a big screen in the depot. And as soon as one of the vehicles stops charging, you will get immediately notified, and then you can restart the charging. So we do know that when you have many EVs charging in the same location, these charging problems do happen, be that on the vehicle side, be that on the charging system side, but issues arise. And if a vehicle is not charged in the morning, when we talk about the last mile delivery, for example, it's not something that you can just easily fix by refueling it. You would need some time for recharging. So in worst case, you would need to deploy another vehicle instead of the one that was not charged. So the best thing is to avoid these problems in the start of the duty. And this is where a charging monitoring system is really crucial as well. The other aspect of charging is a bit more complex, and this is the smart charging aspect. And this is where Ingo also mentioned that earlier, that we are working together with charging management partners to provide you an end-to-end solution in this case. So we can really make smart charging a bit smarter by providing vehicle side data to this equation there as well. So charging system providers do see the charging system, and when the vehicles are connected to this charging system, they have lots of information. But as soon as these vehicles leave the plugs, they don't get more info there. And this is where the vehicle side telematics can be really beneficial as well. So by getting the data from the vehicles all the time, we can make smart charging smarter. We can help with the prioritization of the vehicles. You will exactly see how the driving range of a given vehicle looks like in a given day. You can even consider the planning of that vehicle there as well. And using that information, the charging system can prioritize those vehicles that are in a need for a quicker charge, and then prioritize respecting to that one as well. And that would be some details about the solution. We also had collected lots of electric vehicle related data over the years. So we do support EVs for more than 10 years. And over these 10 years, we do aggregated lots of data from these EVs. And this is true real life data as well. And we utilize this data to create some tools that will support fleet electrification in general and really help people overcome range anxiety, help people overcome the anxiety about the life of the batteries and how long they can be used. So 2 examples that I have for you today would be the temperature range tool that we developed. It's basically analyzed lots of trips from different EVs over the years under different environmental conditions. And now we can really show you what you can expect from a given make and model under a given temperature range. So you can select your EV that you have in mind, for example, and then see, okay, this is the current temperature, what will look like in winter, what will look like in summer, what can I expect as a realistic range. It sounds simple in the first place, but it really helps overcoming range anxiety. It's not just a simple VLTP number there as well. It really shows you what the real world expectation can be. And on a second note, this is also similar to, which is the so-called EV battery degradation tool that we had. Over the years, we have analyzed how the state of health of different battery types look like under different conditions in different vehicles. And now we can also give you this information to see, okay, how the battery degradation of a given make and model would look like over a few years there as well. It's a really rich data set, and it's a really interesting one. And it really helps, in my opinion, at least, fight with the concerns about the lifetime of the electric vehicle batteries, because apart from a few vehicles which do show significant battery degradations, most of the makes and models are really good in that aspect, so they can go 10 plus years without any issues there. So these tools are available free of charge on the website of Geotab. Please feel free to take a look at them when you find some time. And again, I will just like to repeat the message that we had earlier. Successful EV adoption requires good data. And as you saw, this telematics data can be a real asset in all stages of fleet electrifications. But the reason why it's hard to get this data is that EVs don't follow the mandatory data standards that ICEs follow, because they don't have tailpipe emissions. That's why they don't have to follow tailpipe emission measurement standards. So getting this relevant data out of electric vehicles is not an easy task. It's really vital that your telematics system supports as many makes and models as possible, because you do consider many makes and models in your fleet usually. And it's not just the support itself, it's really important to get rich data out of that vehicle, because getting state of charge is just one side of the coin. You would be also needed to have charging energy, driving energy, for example, state of charge over all kinds of different conditions, state of health maybe. These are the other data points that should be considered. So as mentioned, we have more than 10 years of experience supporting EVs there as well, and our EV support is getting higher as we speak. So when I created the slides yesterday, it was, or finished the slide yesterday, it was 186 vehicles, and today it's already 188. So we are counting on that side. And thank you very much for your attention. That would be the EV solution in detail, and looking forward to all your questions in the Q&A session. And now I give word back to Ingo to show some use cases and business cases to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Tamás, for the insight, and absolutely valuable to go on the website and check the tools that we have there. Let me now present two business cases of early adopters. Clearly there are fleet operations that are more suitable to early adoption than others. And as mentioned before, not all fleets can go from 0 to 100% electric today. So this might be a journey that takes time. As I said earlier, fleets need to consider, of course, their TCO, charging infrastructure, electric grid capacity, availability, relevant EV makes and models, but luckily there are many in the pipeline now. But we see European electric utility fleets, service fleets, public sector fleets, last mile delivery. These are surely fleet segments where fleet electrification can go faster. Now, if we move to the next slide to start, well, the first business case relates to final mile delivery. This was a diesel-centric world, but low emission zones, as it is written there, are really driving the lowest cost per delivery to electric. And of course, the existing high diesel prices are maybe another catalyst. So fleets that transition to electric or driving fully electric, of course, they do require a new way of thinking, as already explained by Tamás, and it starts with data. As an example, we would like to take green new transport by Menzies Distribution. So they offer zero emission last mile logistics for retailers and third-party logistics providers. They're based in London, and their routes span across the whole city of London. So drivers travel approximately 25 miles, 40 kilometers a day, marking 50 to 60 stops, equating to anywhere between 100 to 250 parcels. So Green New Transport is one of the UK largest fully electric commercial vehicle fleets, and they drive approximately 70 modified vans to ensure a double payload like Nissan Voltia. So what was their focus, their fleet focus? They wanted to increase productivity as they are working in a competitive environment with often cheaper ICE delivery companies. And the solution had to be modular and able to expand. For example, increased driver safety was also on top of their agenda. Last but not least, while striving then for a greater efficiency and profitability, they also wanted to embrace sustainability logically. So first challenge was that Knut had to build on the foundations of a complex infrastructure with physically only a finite amount of power coming into its charging depot. Only 35 vehicles a day could fully be charged at first. So a telematic solution was required to view and model the fleet's charging operations, and one that could directly feed in then the needed intelligence, the vital intelligence on vehicle state of charge, as well as which vehicle is being charged and when. Now, what were then the benefits of the Geotab solution here? Well, the key to success was an API that could provide, I would say, cross-fleet visibility into the state of charge and charging status. And then by integrating the Geotab platform into its on-site charging infrastructure, Knut had immediate access to the most comprehensive vehicle and charging data possible. So these real-time insights allowed the team to make informed algorithmic calculations on how then best to charge within the building. Moving to the next, a vital factor was also then the ability to roll out the platform across the entire fleet. So they operate a mixed fleet, licensing vans from various OEMs, and while modern vehicles are mostly connected with own basic telematics pre-installed, these different OEM solutions can make for a complex fleet management system. So Geotab's open platform provided a vehicle agnostic, simple to install solution that really simplified things for Green New Transport. All the data flows really into one stream, allowing Knut to see every vehicle on one screen, irrespective of type. So having one system was truly a value to their business. Now, the Geotab platform has also enabled more general intelligent energy usage in the building. 10 of the chargers on site are vehicle to grid, and excess energy at the end of the day can now be used to power the building. In doing so, they are avoiding taking energy from the grid at peak times, and they're able to recover the lost energy off peak at, say, 2 or 3 in the morning. So this data-enabled modeling also provided them with a future roadmap to really intelligently trade energy with the grid, discharging excess energy when it is more expensive and actually turn profit on it. So the data captured by Geotab on the state of charge of those vehicles really helped them to inform these sort of decisions. Battery degradation was also important to, or is also important to consider, particularly in relation to vehicle life cycle. So they lease most of its fleet from OEMs, and they will use battery health data to determine if it makes commercial sense to renew a vehicle or upgrade to a newer model. Last but not least here, they are also considering fleet dash cams in the vehicle to record high definition videos. These are seemingly integrated with Geotab's open platform. So in case of collision or insurance disputes, these offer a clear view of events, and so can also be used to identify risky driving. And we are not only talking road-facing cameras, but also 360-degree views of trip and driver. So cell phone use or driver fatigue can also be detected. So by integrating with Geotab, this type of video footage can then be combined with vehicle data and driving data, then to provide also relevant context. Moving to the next case on the continent, that case is led by the city of Madrid. So the Spanish capital, they actually lead a consortium formed by cities of Stockholm, Sweden, then Munich, Germany, Rus in Bulgaria, and Turku in Finland. And they run together, as it is written here, the Eccentric project, which was developed within the framework of Civitas, an initiative of the European Union and funded by Horizon 2020, it was called. And these promote better and cleaner transport in cities. So what was the business case? It was decided to deploy electric vehicles in the city of Madrid, and the aim was to promote the adoption of electric vehicles in both public and private fleets. So they also wanted to develop a charging infrastructure to support this transition. Communication awareness actions were taken really to promote a greater acceptance of clean vehicles in the professional sectors and the general public. So 19 ZOEs were taken on to evaluate the environmental performance of electric vehicles, and also to analyze then the parameters related to the recharging process and the state of charge of the battery, and to compare the consumption and emissions of electric vehicles with those of combustion engines. What were the results of implementing Geotab? So these 19 EVs were equipped with the Go device, and the team in Madrid wanted to gather data to better then understand their operations, data like distance traveled, daily range of their EVs, daily electrical energy consumed, average energy consumption, etc. And then, as mentioned before, with then the largest EV dataset and support for most EV makes and models, and Geotab was then for them the obvious choice. Installation was simple, and data began to flow quickly through to the My Geotab management platform. So the actual results following implementation are also listed here. Madrid could immediately detect under or overused vehicles. Previously unknown technical issues came to the surface. They could also see the average energy consumption of each vehicle and check how climate conditions and air conditioning affected this variable. They also obtained a better understanding of how charging sessions can be adjusted to eliminate charging during peak hours. And a new driver safety plan is now also on the table to reduce the risk of collisions and to improve energy efficiency. So finally, Madrid also obtained the proof that the transition to electric was the right decision. They reduced their CO2 emissions by 60%, so 1 ton per month for the whole fleet. And then, last but not least, going into this last chapter, we want to emphasize that partnerships are really the new innovation, and at Geotab we really strongly believe in those. Partnerships at the data gathering, aggregation sites, already touched upon, partnerships to OEMs, but we also believe in partnerships where we can feed our data to relevant stakeholders in this electrification ecosystem. That's then, let's say, part of the data consumption part. Geotab telematics and fleet management adds value actually at every stage in the electrification journey, also at that early stage where we still combine ICE vehicles with EVs. So in the end, every stakeholder, as you can see here, they add value to the ecosystem, which of course they must satisfy then customer demand. So this customer demand that can be consulted by a Geotab sales partner or any partner solution, because often you find those on our marketplace, but there are many more. So there may be competition between one or the other players, but particularly at this accelerated stage of EV transition, we should absolutely not hesitate to join forces. So it's amazing to see the increasing numbers of, for example, e-mobility technology providers, from established partners to startups. So in the end, we all have the greater good in mind. Now, time flies. I would say thank you for your attention. Look forward to get in touch. We have Q&A, but you see that we also listed our email addresses there, so don't hesitate.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Thank you, Ingo. Thank you, Tamás, for the excellent presentation, I think. And I'm convinced that you have given our audience quite some food for thought. There are already questions that were submitted, so that is also good news for the both of you. This means that your story is both interesting, but also raises some additional questions. To the audience, if you have questions, you can submit them via the chat function. We will now start our Q&A. First question. Let's start at the beginning. That's always the best. Pedro Souza has a question. I think that Tamás, you already covered it a little bit during the presentation. He is asking, where do you see the hardest part in getting EV data today? And perhaps adding to that, how to overcome that as a fleet?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the hardest part is definitely the west differences between different makes and models. So there is no standard that you can use. Okay, if I get this EV, this is the way I will get the information that we are looking for. So we do have this basic EV data set that's definitely needed for all vehicles to give this minimum level of support. So to get the state of charge, to get the charging energy, to get the driving energy, to really utilize all the aspects of optimization, you would need a given set of data. And finding this given set of data in all the different makes and models, that's definitely challenging. So even under a same manufacturer, you will see differences between two models or even different model years. And then we need to follow up with that one all the time. So whenever there's a new model coming out, it has to be checked if there. Usually we do see it on a software level, but there is also hardware level changes. So a good example is the Model 3 from Tesla, for example, where from one month to the other, you will see a different connector in the vehicle that needs to be followed with a standard harness. And what we see now, the biggest challenge would be the number of new OEMs on the market as well. So the Chinese OEMs entering the European market, they will add to this group of different EV makes and models that needed to be supported to accommodate all fleet needs.
Okay, very good. Second question comes from Jeremy Letru. Are you able at Geotab to block the tracking for company cars to avoid seeing, for example, where are exactly the employees at every moment when they use it in their private lives, etc.? Because we know, of course, that data privacy, etc., can be an issue for many employees. It still is. We also saw it in our survey on connected vehicles earlier this year. So in what way is your solution capable of paying attention to those things?
Mm-hmm. That's another great question. So we do have a complete personal mode in the system. So Geotab is fully GDPR compliant, and using this personal mode, you can turn off the tracking of the vehicle immediately. So there are multiple ways to trigger that one. We can use geofence-based activation of this zone. You can keep it active all the time. For example, you will have work hour-based activation as well. So in business hours, the vehicle can be tracked. Outside of business hours, the vehicle's location won't be visible there as well. So it's completely possible in the system.
Okay. A question from Stefan Denis. I think, Ingo, at the beginning of the presentation, you mentioned somewhere that EVs are more expensive than ICEs in a fleet. Could you provide with evidence and the key reasons why?
Did I state that EVs are more expensive than ICEs?
Well, some of you apparently, or you or Tamás, and it was quite early during the presentation that this question was submitted. Perhaps Stefan has misunderstood.
No, it was on my side. So I mentioned that initially the purchase price of EVs was always more expensive than ICE. So even today, a comparable. So if you take a look at the MSRPs of an EV versus an IC, usually the EV is more expensive. But thanks to all the incentives that we have these days, these prices are get to closer to price parity. Sometimes an EV is even cheaper these days to purchase. But traditionally, the running cost of EVs were always lower than the ICs, because you spare on energy costs, you spare on maintenance costs, you spare on driving charges, for example, in the UK, and these are the other aspects.
Yeah. And of course, we are well aware that TCO is a critical factor here, and with all of these financial incentives, they also play a critical role. But we see this parity coming closer, and today maybe more in the car business, but at every level this will happen, and soon, of course, also trucks will become very attractive to fleets.
Okay, let's continue with one of the most challenging topics for corporate fleet managers when going electric. That is mastering and managing everything that has to do with charging. Okay, so there are a few questions around charging. The first one the first one is again from Pedro Souza. Can you elaborate a little bit about how the EV charging costs works in your solution? You have updated information of the charging station costs in your platform. How do you do that? What can you guarantee to your customer?
I can talk to that one. So thanks for this question as well. Yes, the charging cost add-in that I showed you today, it's based on the input of the user. So we did not update the pricing information there as well, but the user can input their own charging cost basically on the location level, on the different time of use that's available too. So it's a really simple form right now, but Ingo mentioned about the partnerships. So this is definitely an area where a partnership with a charging systems integrator, with a charging card provider can extend on this functionality in a really level.
Good. Another question from Alfred Chanas. Is it possible to see the EV charging stations in your solution in the map?
Yep, Alfred, good point. I did not show that one as well. Yes, we can show that one. So we can use some. So right now we do have an open charger database that we can show, so you can see the location of the charging stations. But it's also possible to use different layers there and integrate from other sources, like the going electric one that you ask in your question.
Another question regarding charging: is your solution limited to a certain number of charging station providers? We know that the network is increasingly extending, that there are several charging infrastructure providers, etc. So in what way is your solution capable of being updated each and every time?
That's a good point as well. So we do work together with some charging systems provider right now, but we are definitely open to work with all the others on the market there as well. So as you see, we do come from the vehicle side, and in all the charging systems or the charging points where the vehicle can charge, we are good to go with those as well. So no, I don't see any limit there, to be honest.
Okay.
Good. I think we must. I think we must also emphasize that's why we presented at the end the importance of partnerships. This is going very fast now, and a lot of new players are joining this ecosystem. And we are really open to partnering up with them. We also see that, of course, you have local, regional, global players in there, and this flexibility is, of course, a benefit then of our open platform, of integrating easily then with these players.
Okay. A question on the TCO side. A question from Michael Kerkhoff. What are inputs for your TCO calculations? Because he experienced some problems to include, for example, elements like residual value or charging costs in the TCO calculation and the TCO equation for electric fleets. What is your take on that at Geotab?
I can speak to that one as well. So both of these points are actually there. So residual where you can add as an input, and also the charging cost. That's a basic input for the calculation. So basically, you will have two options to set, either by purchasing the vehicle or by leasing the vehicle, and both have different sets of input. We also do calculate. First of all, you can select how long do you plan to keep this vehicle in fleet. So for the lifetime calculation, that's usable there. If you select leasing, you can start with the prepayment. You will set the monthlies. You can set all the different taxes, the insurance of the vehicle, the residual value as mentioned, and 2-3 other points basically where you can feed all your input data there as well. If you choose to purchase, then of course you can get the purchase price, you can add the incentives there, you can add again taxes, insurances, parking costs, all the other costs that come there as well. And then you can also consider residual value by purchasing as well. If you consider selling this vehicle in 4 or 5 years, you can approximate how much you will still get for this vehicle.
Okay. Then a series of short final questions. To benefit from your solution, does a customer need to install a hardware in the vehicles?
It's not necessary. So most of the vehicles that we do support today on the EV side, we do support them through our Go device. That's hardware on it. It's a plug and play unit that you can plug into the OBD port of the vehicles. I might have one here around, but basically it's an OBD dongle that we have. But we're also working together with, there it is, and we're also working together with OEMs to get this data directly through the cloud, basically. But for most cases currently, the third-party hardware is the way to go. On the long run, OEMs will be the main data source for this kind of information.
Okay. Knowing that fleets are not only local, can be regional, international, and even global, is the solution available across the different regions, or is it available in a few regions at the moment?
We are a global player, so we're actually we can consult fleets anywhere. That's of course one of our benefits too. So local partners, they own the relationship to the fleets, and we support them on a global level. So that's working well.
Okay, and the final question, can you share something in terms of the cost model? Is it per vehicle? Is it for the size of the vehicle? Is it monthly that a fleet needs to pay to have access to the solution? Or is it on a case per case basis that you look with the customer, what is the best option there?
Well, there is the investment to the hardware, and there is a monthly per vehicle rate. And then it all depends, of course, of the data flow, the data points, and the value add that comes on top. But it's on a vehicle basis that we think.
Okay. And then the final question, Ingo, why should fleets, even in these particular times with high energy prices and things like the microchip shortage and so on, still think to go for EV?
Well, I ended my part with the greater good, and I think I should repeat it. And so, of course, we all strive for a better climate, and there is a responsibility to take. Of course, one cannot ignore economical motives, but we see EV electrification, let's say, all becoming much more competitive, cost effective. We touched upon TCO. I think there are a lot of local governmental drivers now pushing EVs forward, and much more models coming to the market. I think everybody is embracing, and this critical mass will only grow, and it will only make then this electrification journey more attractive to fleets. But of course, the greater good, sustainability, the Green Deal, Europe, we are all aware of that, and cannot wait longer.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for this webinar, Tamás, Halbrucker, and Ingo de Schryver. I think that we had a great webinar. We had some interesting questions that you answered perfectly well. Thank you for that. And also to Geotab, thank you for the support for this Fleet Week Connected and Electric. Ladies and gentlemen, we will continue our Fleet Week tomorrow, and that we will do with another learning webinar, this time with leasing company LeasePlan, and they will give us insight in how to transform your ICE fleet into an EV fleet. The webinar is tomorrow at the same time, so 11 o'clock a.m. Central European time, and we hope to meet with you again tomorrow in our Fleet Week. Thank you and have a nice day. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.